When I met my wife, we didn't just walk right to the aisle. We didn't just choose to get to know each other at the altar during the vows. We had spent time before. We had met online and we talked for a month before we ever met. And when we met, we started to get to know each other, and we spent time getting to know each other before we ever confessed our love. And before we ever confessed our love, or after we confessed our love, then it was, will you marry me? And only after that did we eventually walk down the aisle together, make that decision together and that commitment together, have that experience together. And it's no different than that in our Christian experience. One thing to remember is that before Moses led the people free from Pharaoh, he spent 40 years in the desert, in the wilderness, learning to shepherd sheep. But there was a reason for that. God called him to that. Before he could take that message to free the people, to deliver a message to Pharaoh, he was first called to the burning bush where he spoke with God. Before he was able to deliver the law of God to the people of God, that they could begin to understand about following God, he needed to be called up to the mount of God. And before any executions of judgment were put out there, Moses was called up to the mount where Moses was hid in the cleft of the rock as God showed him his glory, showed him himself. And before Jesus was about to endure the cross, he was called up to the Mount Olivet in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he spent time with his Father. Before the disciples were about to be absent of his presence, they were called to have that experience with him. They were called again before the ascension to spend a night on the mount with Jesus. And today, you and I, before we do anything, before we accomplish anything, before we go anywhere with God, we are called to spend a night on the mount with God. We need that time with God. And that's not just time spent. It's not a one-time here and a one-time there kind of time with God. No, this is a time that becomes all the time with God. This is a time where it's always time with God. Please take the time where prayer becomes this natural outflowing of your breath, where when you go for a walk, it's time speaking with God. When you're working, you're sharing with God, and you're speaking and listening to him. There's so many times that we fail in this Christian life because we don't take the time to be connected. Daily, continual effort to be connected with Jesus. So I want to encourage you to take time getting connected with Jesus before you worry about the next big step. Hear the call of God and spend some time getting connected with him.